Okay, so here we are in the code. What I'm going to do now is write a few example functions that exercise some of the methods we just learned about for working with XML in Firefox. So this is the document that I have here. I'm at my starting point. Let me just scroll down so you can see the code. We've got 4 functions that we need to write: create XML document, load XML document, load XML document async, and parse XML document. So this is going to be a little test harness for us to try out our newfound XML skills in Firefox. So I'm going to write each one of these functions, and you can see that in the script block, they're just going to execute right here at the bottom of the script tag. So I'm not going to do anything fancy like set up any event handlers or anything like that. So let's write the create XML document example first. Remember, to create an XML document, the first thing that we need to do is have a variable to hold the document. So I'll write this XML doc, and then I'll write document dot implementation dot create document. Okay. Now also recall that create document takes a few arguments. So I'm going to pass in an empty string for the namespace, and I'm going to pass in the string my root for the root tag name, and pass in null for the last parameter. So this will create the document. Now we're going to use the DOM functions to create the content like we saw in the slide earlier. So I'm going to write var opara equals, and to create elements, we tell the document to create them. So we say XML doc dot create element, and we're going to create a p tag here. Now we're going to create the text to go inside the paragraph. So we're going to say var o text equals XML doc dot create text node. And inside the text node, we're going to put this is some text. Now we need to append that text into the paragraph. So I'm going to write opara dot append child, and that's going to append in the text node. Now we need to put the paragraph into the document. So I'm going to say XML doc dot document element, because the document element, recall from the DOM, is always at the root of the XML document. And we're going to tell the document element to append child, and that's going to be the opara. Okay, so now we're going to see a trick that we have not directly covered in the slides yet. This is how to serialize an XML document into a string. And we're going to do this so that we can call an alert function and display the content. So what I'm going to do now is write alert, and that's going to show the XML code. What I'm going to do now is type in new XML serializer. And that creates a new XML serializer object, and this works in Firefox. And to get the text content of the XML document, or more accurately, to get a text representation of all the tags and all the content, I'm going to call the serialize to string method. And I just need to pass in the XML document node. Now I can do this for any node in the document. It doesn't have to be the XML document itself. But in this case, I want the text for the entire document. So I'm going to pass in the root node of the document. Okay, so now we are at a place where we can try this out. So I'm going to browse this in Firefox. Browse with, and you can do this using whatever tool you happen to using. It has some built-in way of launching a browser. If not, just save the file, go out to the file system, and bring it up in your browser. Okay, so I'm going to launch Firefox here. So you can see that the alert is being called, and sure enough, there's the root tag, my root, and there's the paragraph we created, and there's the text content. So seems to work just fine. So let's move on to the next example. So now we're going to create the load XML document feature. And the load XML document example, what we're going to do is load a local file, and the local file is this right here, the businesscard.xml file. So this is saved in the same directory as the page we're working on. So I'm going to go switch back to the code here. So to load a document, remember what we need to do. First, we need to have our variable to hold the document. So we'll write var XML doc, and we'll say document.implementation.create document. Now, in this case, I'm going to pass empty strings for both the root tag and the namespace because we're going to load an entirely finished document, so I don't need to pass a root tag in. And I'm going to type in null for the third parameter. Okay, so now I've created an empty XML document. Now, I'm going to load this document synchronously. So to do that, I need to say xmldoc.async is equal to false. Otherwise, this would default to true. So I need to explicitly do this. And it's always a good idea to explicitly write what your intentions are anyway, rather than rely on implicit behavior because, for all you know, in the future that might change. So once I've done that, I just need to write xmldoc.load. And since the file is in the same folder, all I need to do is write the name of the file here. So that's businesscard.xml. And we're going to use the same serialization trick in all of our examples. So I'm just going to go ahead and paste that in down here. So let's go ahead and comment out the create document since we already know that that works. And now we're going to call load XML document. All right, so let's go ahead and view this in the browser. Okay, and you can see that the XML document loaded properly and it got serialized out to a string, and here it is in the alert. All right, so far so good. We're 2 for 2. Let's keep on going. Now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to load the XML document, but we're going to do it asynchronously. So once again, I'm going to create the document. I'm just going to copy and paste this line here. Okay. And now this time we're going to do it asynchronously. So to do it asynchronously, I need to set the xmldoc.async equals to true. Now again, this is the default, but I find it's better to be explicit. Now we're going to set the onload handler for the XML doc. So that's this guy here, xmldoc.onload. And we're going to write equals function. Okay, and inside this function, we're just going to say alert. And we're just going to do the same serialization trick that we've been doing. So I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to paste it into my alert here. Okay. So now that we've written the asynchronous version, let's go down and comment out the one that we know works. Okay, so I need to add the actual call to loading the document. So I'm going to write xmldoc.load, and I'm going to load the businesscard.xml. So let's go browse this in Firefox. Okay, here we go. And you can see that it loaded asynchronously. So that's an example of loading the file both synchronously and asynchronously. So now I'm going to close the browser. Okay, the last example that we're going to write now is parsing a document from a text string. And so what we're going to do is write the parse XML document function. And that's this guy right here. So let's go comment out the previous example. So what we're going to do now is write var oparser equals new DOM parser. Once we do that, we need to call the parser's parseFromString method and assign that to be an XML document. So we're going to write var XML doc equals, and now it's just a matter of calling oparser dot parse from string, and we're going to pass in the text example from our earlier slide with the whole myRoot thing. So I need to type myRoot, and we need to give that a closing tag, myRoot. And we're going to put the paragraph in here along with the closing paragraph. And we're going to write in, this is some text. Okay, so now we have a text string that represents a complete XML document. And once we've called the parseFromString method, once again, we're going to use the little XML serializer trick to get a string that we can alert. And that's going to be this guy right here. All right, so now we're ready to try this example in Firefox. Oh, actually, before I browse it, I forgot that there's actually parseFromString actually takes another argument, which is application/XML. Pass in the MIME type that the file is going to be. It's an XML file. All right, so now we're ready to browse this in Firefox. So let's go ahead and do that. And you can see that we parsed this document from the string, and we're showing it in the alert here. Okay, so that's using XML in Firefox. I think we're ready to move on now and look at the same kind of capabilities that Internet Explorer provides.